401k is not the only option for your employees to have, and there's some better things that cost less. Let's talk about it.
Just start saving. We're going to change the world.
What's up, folks, and welcome to the Money Summit. My name is Dallas. I am a financial professional helping business owners and individuals achieve their money summits. And today we're talking about 401k versus simple IRA. What are the differences? What are the pros and cons? We're really going to talk more about the simple IRA, but I'll compare the pros and cons to that with the 401k because that's the most common option these days, right? The 401k is a really great tool for employers to offer their employees when it comes to saving for retirement. Now, I don't do 401ks, but I've worked with people who've had 401ks. I look into the 401k and how they work and how they operate, and I have some colleagues who actually do 401ks as well. But with the 401k, a couple of the upsides are that you can contribute a little bit more than like the simple IRA that we'll be talking about. The contribution limits of a simple IRA or a 401k for someone under the age of 50 are, I believe, $23,000 this year for 2024. And then the employer can match. It's kind of a wide range of match. They can do 1%, 6%, it can be 6%, 50 cents on the dollar. There's a lot of options that the employer can have as far as matching goes. What I have found, talking with I have a lot of clients now these days, have been in this industry almost a decade, seeing what they have with their employers and other people that I know, 2 to 5%, maybe around that 3% mark is usually what the employer will be matching on the 401k. And then of course the employee can contribute up to $23,000 a year below the age of 50. Now, some of the downsides with the 401k. On the employer side, which is who I'm talking to, employers out there, I got you. There are a lot of fees in place with 401k. Mostly because you have to have a third-party administrator in place. They help with all the taxes and the paperwork. There's a lot of paperwork that you have to file at least every year, if not every quarter, with the IRS for the 401k plan. And because of all that, there are a lot of fees that you will acquire by having a 401k in place. Not only are there fees to get the thing started, there's fees to keep it maintained, and then there's fees for every employee that you have on the plan. In addition to that, the employee themselves, depending on the type of mutual funds or whatever that they're established in, they will have fees with that 401k provider. So it's a very fee-heavy product, but there are some pretty good benefits with it, with the 401k. Now, for the simple IRA, and this is the plan that I like to use because it is simple. It's easy. There's not as much paperwork that you have to do. Filing is way more simple. And because of all that, there's virtually no cost. Depending on the employer, depending on the payroll systems that we have in place and who they're working with, whatever, there may sometimes be like a little bit of a service fee. I mean, you might be looking at a couple $100 a year just to kind of help things on the payroll side, but it even has nothing to do with setting up the account or anything like that. That generally is a zero cost to the employer, which is great. If there's one thing I've learned, employers want to save money and save taxes. So today we're talking about saving money. Now, a couple of the cons with the simple IRA before we get into the upside. So the first con is kind of twofolded, I guess, is the employee cannot contribute as much as the 401k and the match is capped at 3%. Like I mentioned earlier, most 401k providers or employers that are using the 401k, I should say, are probably only matching up to 3% anyway, so it's kind of a wash on that, right? The other con that I have found is that with a simple IRA, and this is kind of a grayish con, it's not quite black and white, but the other con that I have found is with the simple IRA, there is no option for a loan. You can't loan money out. With a 401k, you can loan money out, but you have to pay back plus interest. Usually, technically, all that money goes back to your account, but there's some fees, of course, involved depending on the provider, depending on how they have it set up. But it is something that you have to pay back. And when you're paying back that loan, it potentially could go away from you saving into the retirement piece. Take it or leave it. There's some pros and cons to both of that scenario. But with the simple IRA, you cannot loan money out. You can withdraw it, and when you withdraw it, especially below the age of 59 and a half, you're going to acquire some fees in that case, specifically because of the IRS. Now, if you're below the age of 59 and a half and you take money out, there is a 10% penalty plus whatever the taxes are. Usually the taxes are going to be 20% or so. It might be lower, it might be higher. Kind of depends on income. Get with your CPA or your tax advisor on that. But you would be paying taxes on what you withdraw plus a penalty if you are below the age of 59 and a half. Outside of that, there is nothing else. You do not have to pay it back. There are no interest fees that you have to pay. No service penalties or whatever. I guess there could be some extra charges, surrender charges, depending on the provider, depending on how long it's been in place. But in general, the taxes plus a 10% penalty below 59 and a half as a withdrawal, that's it. 401k, you could take it out as a loan and you would have to pay all that back plus interest. So either way, the contributions, the ongoing contributions would either go towards the loan with the 401k or back to the main pot of money on the Simple IRA. So it's kind of a wash, but it really just depends on what you're comfortable with and how you want to look at it. Both acquire some fees. Both have pros and cons to each side. But like I said, that's why this con is kind of a gray con. Some might see it as a benefit. Some might see it as a non-benefit. Now, let's talk about the pros with the Simple IRA. We talked about the 401k and how one of the major cons is cost for the employer. And that's who we're talking to today. Your employers out there, especially if you have 100 or less employees, which I believe is like 90% of the businesses in America. So I'm talking to you. When you are establishing retirement accounts for employees, there are often a lot of fees. We just talked about it with the 401k. Depending on how you have your payroll system in place, what software or in-house software that you're using, there could be some cost to help with the payroll side of things just to get things going. But as far as an ongoing cost to establish a Simple IRA and to have it as an offering to your employees is a zero cost. At least that's how I have done it and what I have done for my small businesses that I work with. There's zero cost. It doesn't cost thousands of dollars. As far as paperwork goes, you do not have to file as strenuously like you do with the 401k. It's pretty cut and dry. And it is called Simple IRA for a reason. It's also an acronym, which is this right here. I'll put it on the screen. I don't remember off the top of my head, but there is an acronym for it. But it is more importantly, simple for the employer. Now, like what we talked about, the employer can contribute up to 3% into that, and that is a write-off or a deduction for the business. Which obviously get with your CPA, get with your tax advisor on how to implicate that for filing. It's pretty simple, and if there are any costs on both 401k and Simple IRA, under Secure Act 2.0, I believe, you can get up to a $5,000 tax write-off or deduction for that as well for the setup cost and fees. That does include the match that you are putting toward the employee accounts as well, so you can write that off. On the Simple IRA side, you're getting more bang for your buck because you're not putting out so much. And if you can only get up to $5,000, but it costs you $7,000 to get 401k established, you might only get $5,000 back. But with the Simple IRA, it costs you $4,000. You could get $4,000 back. You would get basically your money back, not anything else. So, and that when I say cost, I mean the matching part. There's really no cost for the Simple IRA to establish. We're talking about getting the business getting the money back for the match that they gave their employees. So as you can see, there's pros and cons to both. In my opinion, the Simple IRA seems to work better for my clients. It's easier, it's more understandable, and I'm able to help get that established fairly simple with the employees with zero cost to either employer or employee. Within that Simple IRA construct, I like to use what are called fixed indexed annuities for that IRA. The fixed index allows you to earn interest on the upside with a guarantee no loss when the market goes down. And right now we're seeing people earning 8 to 11% average on the upside, which is pretty good for annuities if anybody knows how annuities usually work. But then there's always a guarantee no loss when the market tanks, which it should be any minute. We'll see what happens. We're kind of in an unprecedented time with the market. Economy's kind of in the tank, but the market is up. That creates a big, I call it alligator effect. And eventually that alligator is going to have to eat. So something's got to happen to make some adjustments. If that something is just the economy following the stock market, that would be great. Drive down inflation, but that's a whole nother topic. I don't even know how we got off on that. But anyway, if you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the description, or not the description, but in the comments down below the description. I'm happy to help answer any question. There's also a link in the description If you want to get on my calendar, no cost. We'll have a conversation, talk about your goals, how you want to help your employees, and we'll get it set up for you. That all being said, I hope you learned something today, and we'll see you on the next one.